This is Bonsai Anonymous and the Unknown Scat Singer. I taught jazz improvisation in college for many years, and I was always looking for ways to help the students with the process. The way that I came up was basically practice all your scales and chords. We had and still have a book called Patterns for Jazz. Jerry Coker has tons of patterns in it. And I don't think even Jerry recommends that you learn all those patterns in the book and play them. I think what he had in mind was getting people to think in different keys. And that's exactly what you have to do, because he gives you the pattern in one key or two keys, and then you have to continue it just from the chord symbols. So that's a real practical exercise. And also we had the Ebersolds play-alongs, we still do, of course. And the Ebersold idea is to learn the scales, learn what scales go with what chords. And that is such a big step in the right direction that 95% of the people don't have. And I don't have it too well. I only worked on it for about 40 years. So all of those were things that we did in improv class. And then in the last, I don't know, 5 or 10 years that I taught, someone suggested a book to me called The Goal Note Method. I'll say that again, The Goal Note Method. I think Shelly Berg, the dean of the School of Music at the University of Miami, is the author, I believe. And the idea of this book is, I would say it's both revolutionary and something that should be obvious to anybody who listens to jazz musicians. I had a student one time say, how do you improvise? How do you come up with a line that gets to the right note when the chord changes? Because the chord is not happening. In order to make a right note, you have to hear the chord, at least pre-hear it. I think that's the way I think of it, pre-hear it, or know how the chord progression goes. But how do you make it clear that you have heard the chord change? And the Goal Note Method nails this down, because what most of the books don't have, even Jerry Coker's book doesn't have too much chromaticism in it that I've seen. I mean, I haven't played every single exercise. And some of them are impossible for me. But the idea of chromatic scale usage is not something that was really covered in there. And in order to do the Goal Note Method, you definitely have to be able to approach notes from a step or a half step away. And those notes are the goal notes. And the whole purpose of the book is to teach you what the goal notes are and teach you ways that you can use that information to make your solo sound authentic, because it's very difficult to find a professional jazz solo without chromaticism. It's very difficult. And I'm not going to say who you might be able to find doing that, because that's not important. But all the greats, at least who I would call greats, Charlie Parker, Clifford Brown, the greats, John Coltrane. These people had absolute control of chromaticism, and each in their own way. The book Goal Note Method does not send you toward your own approach, your own way, because that's skipping something. I think being able to play the goal note successfully is something you have to do before you get to your own sound. So the book teaches you what the goal notes are and the priority of them, or the hierarchy, I guess might be a better word. And of course, those of us who have improvised know that the thirds and sevenths are going to be right up there. And it continues to give a hierarchy of notes. And it is one hierarchy, and it works fine. I think the individual part of this comes when you slightly change the hierarchy, and it probably won't be changing the thirds and sevenths. Those are almost immutable, I think. They have to be there. But your choice of the next notes past that on the hierarchy will determine your sound. Some of the notes are bland, fifth and sixth, so forth. Some are a little dissonant. The ninth is a dissonant note, depending on which one it is. They're all dissonant. They're all dissonant to the root, either by a step or a half step. We've got the plus 11, which is an exotic sounding note on some chords. So anyway, and you could even use blue notes as the goals. And if you did, it would make the blue notes sound even more effective. So this use of chromaticism points at the goal notes, surrounds them, encloses them, approaches them by scales of different types, mostly comes to them from their part in an arpeggio. There are all sorts of ways to get to goal notes. The important thing is that when you do, it should be clear that you know that that is a goal note. And how you do that without stopping and explaining it is you would approach it in a way that jazz musicians approach goal notes. And that's what this book teaches you. It's really fantastic. I'm not getting paid anything to endorse it. I'm not getting paid anything, period. But I am endorsing it. And it has a play-along CD. That's a problem because no one has a CD player anymore except us old folks. So the new version, I don't know, maybe you get the thing streaming. Probably you can, I would bet, because Shelly Berg is right on top of technology. So the book has you do exercises where you put goal notes in chord progressions, kind of randomly almost. And then you approach them doing the various things the book is suggesting. And if you do this, and you play what you get with good feel, good sound, and good time, those are crucial. And no book is actually going to give you those. A teacher can give it to you. Listening to yourself can give it to you. The book does not give you that. It can give you ideas, but it's not going to give you that. You have to pick your own sound, and you have to understand time, feel, and swing, and so forth. But if you can do that, if you can write a little fake solo using the method of the book, and we did it in class many, many times, hundreds of times. If you write a little solo, faking it by putting the goal notes in and then approaching them kind of randomly using these techniques, what you'll get is passable for sure, and much better than many of us could come up with on our own. And I use this book with virtual beginners to jazz improvisation, and also to some quite experienced professionals. It's a different way of thinking that we all do. I haven't seen it in a book in this way before. So the goal note method. This is, I wanted to say that one of the things that's in the book is standard tunes. And as with many of these, the way to, at least in those days, was to, the way to avoid having to pay for all these tunes was to put a new melody on them and call them something else. Because the part jazz musicians care about mostly is the chord progressions. So that's why there are so many jazz charts built around chord progressions that are already in existence. Like I Got Rhythm, or the blues certainly, and it really quite a few. One of my favorites is called On Purple Porpoise Parkway. That's hard to say. It's Tom Kuba's chart based on Green Dolphin Street. So it's the name is a pun, and the chart is just wonderful. Tom Kubis this is my day to compliment people. I want to throw one into Bill Prince too. What a genius. And how lucky to get to work with someone like that. Bill and I brought Jamie Aebersold in for one semester as a artist in residence. And his schedule did not permit him to just live in Boca Raton for 3 months. But he did come 3 times, I think, maybe, or 4, for a week or 2 at a time, which actually at the time I was stunned, and I still am, that he could do that. The pay was not nothing, but I don't know that it covered his expenses. Anyway, he was such a crusader for improvisation that it was inspiring. I mean, he taught history classes with jazz improvisation. He taught everything from the standpoint of improvisation, and so the kids got immersed in that for that semester, and I think it made a difference. It made a difference to me. Bill and I and Jamie used to take a break and go up to Bill's office and practice scat singing with Jamie's play-alongs. And so this whole idea of scat singing is another one that's really important. I don't actually know any great jazz players that can't scat sing. Now, there's plenty of not quite great ones that can't. And if you play certain instruments like guitar, for example, you don't really have to have the note in your head that you're playing. But I'm going to be willing to bet that Christian Davis, the guitar player on my last CD, and actually it is the last CD, I'm sure he has in his head what he's playing because he's a genius also. I can't believe that someone that young can play that well. And having said that, I will endorse my own CD. So if any of you are interested in getting a copy of that, they're going quick. We got 500 of them, and I've sold one so far and given away about 200. So I'd be willing to sell these for almost nothing just to get them out there because there's so much good playing on them. Not from me, but the band is really good. And if you like big band music, creative music, improvisatory music, let me know. I'd love to send you one. We have a couple of CDs, and you can see what it is that we do, or we did, in my group. Okay, well, I'm not going to pull out my Gold Note Method book because at this point, I don't actually even know if I have it. I've been retired since 2017, and before I retired, I let my students go into my office and basically strip it of everything that they wanted. And all they had to do was get by me at the door. And there were a few things I wanted to keep, and I stopped them before they got out. But everything else, including that book probably, went into the hands of a student, which I'm very happy about. And the things that none of us want went into the dumpster. And it's like Swedish death cleaning, only Swedish career cleaning, I guess, because I had maybe 50 boxes of stuff and called crap by my wife, actually. And she said, "You're not bringing that home." And I ended up bringing about 15 boxes. So a lot of stuff went out that door. And I don't feel bad about any of it because I think it's being used. A nice PA, well, no, not a nice PA, but a little PA you could definitely use on a gig. We did with our band. It went. Some instruments went. A lot of recordings went. A lot of music went. Books, even furniture went, and even some collectibles. I had a copy of a recording session that Kenton did in 1947, I think. This is on the Mosaic Kenton series, which are probably unavailable now. But this recording session was, I think, after midnight. The band had maybe played a concert, and they went into the studio because they were in town, wherever the studio was. I think it might have been Columbia. I don't know, though. This is 1947. But they went into the studio, and I found online for sale the studio log of that session, including all the tunes, who played, the times, who the soloists were, signed at the bottom by Stan Kenton. What a nice little thing to actually have in your hands. And I gave that, as well as my Mosaic Kenton recordings, to a real Kenton fan who certainly appreciates it all more than I did. He also got my music folder that I had at one of the Kenton camps in the 70s that had all the musicians' signature, Peter Erskine, Stan Kenton, and so forth, who were in the band at the time. That one went, and I was happy for it to go. And things are leaving my own house, too, on eBay. So enough rambling. I know no one will listen to this, but on the way to the dentist, I had to make myself feel good somehow. All right, Bonsai Anonymous out.